The modern interpretation of the offside law can be confusing, so to help you understand it better, we'll look at 5 elements of offside that you probably didn't know about, including being in an offside position is not an offence, coming back from an offside position, deflection or deliberate play, opponent intentionally playing the ball, and body parts used to determine offside. First up, being in an offside position is not an offence, as listed in the laws of the game. Here you see the offside line and the ball about to be passed. This player is clearly in an offside position, but as the ball is passed, this is the player who will actually receive it. We see here that the player who was originally onside actually receives the ball, and the player who was originally offside is now back in an onside position. This is what is known as a new phase of play. So to summarise, if you are in an offside position when the ball is played, but you do not make an attempt to go for the ball or impact the defenders around you, and then you get back to an onside position, providing the ball is played by another player before you touch it, you will not be called offside. That leads us nicely into the next element, which is coming back from an offside position. In this example, the player is clearly well offside when the ball is played by his teammate. Even though he runs back into his own half before touching the ball, the player is offside because he has come back from an offside position, and nobody else touched the ball in the meantime. If you are offside when the ball is originally played by a teammate, then you come back from an offside position and nobody else touches the ball before you do, you will be called offside as soon as you touch the ball. In another example of coming back from an offside position, here you can see that the player is only very marginally offside, by his foot actually, when his teammate controls the ball. Because he is coming back from an offside position and then directly receives the ball, offside is correctly called. Now on to a subjective area of the offside law which is not well known, a deflection or deliberate play. This example shows the player clearly offside when the ball is played into the penalty area. However, remember that being in an offside position is not an offence. The defender attempts to clear the ball, but his clearance is impacted by an opponent. The ball then drops to the player who was originally offside, and he scores, but the goal is disallowed. Essentially, the defender's touch doesn't actually count as a touch to reset the offside phase, so the player who was originally in an offside position is correctly penalised, although this is a subjective area of the offside law, and so each situation has to be assessed by the referee and VAR if it is available. Let's briefly look at the IFAB guidance on the difference between a deflection and deliberate play. A player in an offside position who receives the ball from a deflection is penalised for being offside and gaining an advantage. However, a player in an offside position who receives the ball from a deliberate play is not penalised for being offside. So what is a deliberate play? You can see here that it's basically when a player is able to either gain control of the ball, pass it to a teammate, or clear it. As we saw in the example, the defender was not able to do any of those things, and so his touch was not considered a deliberate play. Therefore, the player coming back from an offside position was penalised for being offside. Now on to a more straightforward element of the offside law, an opponent intentionally playing the ball to a player in an offside position. The player here is clearly offside when the ball is played to him, but because the ball is played by an opponent, offside is not a consideration. Strangely, this player was actually called offside during the Qatar 2022 World Cup, but this was an incorrect decision. You cannot be offside if you receive the ball from an opponent who deliberately plays it. Finally, let's address the body parts used to determine offside. The parts of the body that determine whether a player is offside or not are only the parts which you are legally allowed to score a goal with. Basically, every part of your body except your hands and arms. This image shows which part of the arms are not considered for offside. Anything below the upper arm, level with the armpit. The laws of the game specifically reference this, as you can see here, but let's look at an example. The comparison for offside here is between one player's boot and the other player's upper arm. The upper arm limit based on the graphic we saw is determined by this red line, and so this yellow triangle is basically the area of the player's body that is considered offside. Hopefully these examples help you better understand the modern offside law and how it is applied. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below. Thanks for watching.